Okay, for my subscribers, this is my first time on camera in one of these videos. So, hello to everyone and thank you for subscribing and checking out my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope you all keep coming back to my channel. I assure you there will be plenty of good music to come and interviews with my friends. To say my friends are an interesting lot is an understatement. I screwed it up. I'm here with the very dapper Bruce Spiegelman, who I have known for close to 25 years. He is a San Francisco native with a colorful past. He's been living in Marin for about 30 years, is that right?
Something like that.
Okay.
74.
So Bruce, let's wrap. So tell me, what was it like growing up in San Francisco in the 50s and the 60s?
Well, the 50s were placid. They were. I came from a nice family, and everybody was together. And the 50s were very placid, kind of posh, I would say, and a lot of love because my grandparents on both sides of the family lived in the city also. One set of grandparents lived not far from us, and Grandma Ruth was a constant, but we had a good time. We grew up out near Stonestown, which used to be a little open-air mall, and when I got to be about 12 or 13, that's where we cruised. We congregated at the mall, you know. So I tell people I'm from a place called Stonestown in the Southwest. It's located in the Southwest part of San Francisco. It's a whole different situation now. The 60s were interesting. I went to Lowell High School, which was an academic school, and we had our beatniks to begin with. And I got there in '65, in January '65. And what would happen is the Avalon, or the Fillmore started. It was Longshoremen's Hall. It was California Hall, Longshoremen's Hall, the Fillmore, the Avalon, and other locales around the city. And the band started up, and there was a quest for something higher and something more creative than what was going on. What was going on wasn't bad, but what it was the LSD. And the way it manifested itself at Lowell, we were academic kids. It was a real sort of insular environment out there. You'd see your friend on a Friday and you'd say hi to him, and then you'd see him on a Monday and they'd have a faraway look in their eye, which meant they'd gone to the Avalon or to one of the ballrooms and gone to see the Dead or something like that and taken some LSD. And it was like the pod people had come, It wasn't a bad thing. It was just, and they started beating to a different drum, as they say. And so it was really cool. It really was. It was very safe. It was a good time in the history of San Francisco, too, because we all got along. And I grew up, as I said, out near Stonestown, and our schools were well integrated by their natures, and we all got along. Everybody got along. It was just a really fun time, And I started going to the Avalon and the Fillmore and things like that, and really liked the Airplane. I thought the Airplane were a great band. I was never much into the Dead, I have to be honest, because they were kind of thrashing at that point, and particularly when Pigpen left the band. He was just I'm a rhythm and blues kind of guy, and he was the basis, the guts behind the rhythm and blues, behind that whole band. In retrospect, I really love them because I remember what it was like, and I know what they were trying to do. But there were concerts in the park, out at Speedway Meadows, Lindley Meadows, on Hippie Hill, just minor stuff around there. I much liked a guy named Lee Michaels, who was like a second generation. The second generation were Santana and Moby Grape, those bands. And then Lee came along. He was pretty much an LA guy that had moved up here. And he was putting out pure rock and roll, and that's what I could relate to. He had a moment there of about 3 years that was really good. really, really good. And I watch him pretty much daily on his podcast. So he's almost 80 now, and I'm 75. It's pretty outrageous. But growing up in the city was, I was 16 years old in 1966, and I had a room downstairs with my own entrance. And when I got a car when I was about 16, 17, something like that. And I had that city wired, man. I knew what was going on all over the place. Some good things, not so good things, all like that. And we had a nice neighborhood too, because we all got along. And, I want to say that in the Summer of Love, which was the Light My Fire summer, that song was all over the place. When that song occurs, it used to, I knew the summer was on. They don't play it as much as they used to. But I remember we all congregated in the library of the house next door to mine, and we pooled our money, and I became the one who went and copped the pot. And I became one of those little hippie pot dealers, for a long time. In the late 60s, I went off to school in England, and that's where I kind of got liberated. I was 19 and came back, and I met Stephen Gaskin from a thing called Monday Night Class. And that would form out at the Family Dog on the Great Highway, which was the extension of the Avalon. The Avalon had folded, and Chet had moved out to the Family Dog, or to that facility, and called it the Family Dog. And but on Monday night, Stephen, and I didn't think there were any hippies left. I thought they all really left because 68 got weird. It got speed. The guys came from the East Coast with their black leather jackets and their speed and all that stuff. And the hate got dangerous. And in 69, I didn't think there were any hippies left. But on Monday nights, about 400, we'd all come together and sit and listen to Stephen lecture for the first half, and pass joints around and all that stuff. And he was talking about Einstein, magic, and God. Now, he eventually moved to Tennessee to form a commune called The Farm, which is still in operation down there. I think it's sort of a hippie retirement home at this point. But Stephen really opened up my channels, because he turned me on to the Zen Center, where Suzuki Roshi was still alive. And I was still going to school. I was going to Berkeley at this point and studying religious philosophy. And, I was on the quest. I was on the path. When I finished Berkeley in 72, I hitchhiked to the first meeting of the tribes in Granby, Colorado. Now, that was a rainbow gathering, actually. The meeting of the tribes, they were local events. But I hitchhiked out to the first Rainbow Family gathering, out to D.C. to see a friend of mine that was in med school, and then down to Summertown, Tennessee, to Stephen's farm down there. And my best friend Gary had gone on the caravan. They'd all left on a caravan after a Monday night class. And Gary had been my best friend. And I greened out. I didn't want to go. I was too attached to my girlfriend and all my nice stuff. And I'll tell you, when that caravan left, all that nice stuff went bye-bye, including the girlfriend. And the girl next door, the girl lived directly next door, she died suddenly. And all these things happened, and it really put me in a bad place. And I was looking for cohesion, and Berkeley was no place to be seeking cohesion in the late 60s, early 70s. So, but I made it through. Basically, I made a deal with God at that point that I could put my troubles away. But I needed to be a chaste celibate yogi to do that. And so that's what I did for a few years. And as I said, I hitchhiked cross country and back, having gone out to Stephen's farm, came back to San Francisco, and I knew that sobriety, or not sobriety, but service was a very important part of being the type of a karma yogi, the type I was or am. And got a job working in the Fillmore as a playground director, and during the zebra killings, no less. And I found the way to communicate with the kids was we'd play basketball every day. And after we play basketball, I'd have bought about 10 copies of the Chronicle, and I'd pass them out. We'd play basketball, the kids would go to Foodland, and they would get their snacks. and then we read the Chronicle together, the sports page. It was a great tool for me to help the kids with the reading and things, you know. And I did that for a couple years, and I had a night gym out near where I grew up, and it turned out the guys doing the zebra killings, the killers, were there on every Wednesday night. They had half the girls' gym reserved as an entity called the Black Self-Help Moving Company. And one night I was shutting the gym down real late, and the guys were sitting in the car, 4 of them were, and it was late, and I was thinking, what are they doing here, you know? So I waved to them as I walked by, and then 2 weeks later they published the pictures of the killers, and they were the guys. And they had done the last 2 killings out on that side of town in the Ocean View, Ingleside Terrace part. And when I called my mother and told her what had happened, she literally came to San Francisco the next day and packed me up and moved me into their house in Marin County. And she said, that was too close for you, Bucky. She said, we're going to try it again. So anyway, I looked around Marin County and I saw that Mill Valley was like a reservation for rock stars. Lee Michaels, who had been my favorite rocker, I was brought into a situation where Lee was accessible. So I got to be friends with Lee. I was hanging out with Lee. And it was prune music. And that's where the boogie anthem was invented. And my friend Michelle, she was the assistant manager there. And everybody would come through prune, you know, because people did not have personal assistants back then. You know, so you see Grace Slick in there, or maybe Garcia, you know, buying their strings and their stuff and looking at instruments, you know. So it was a very cool place to hang out. And got to know Dan Hicks, who I thought was a very talented guy. And it was funny, when I first got to Mill Valley, Dan Hicks and Marty Ballin were like the drunks. They were both drunk at the old mill. You go in there during the daytime and they'd be sleeping in different parts of the bar, that, you know. And then Marty had miracles, you know, if only you do believe what I do believe, you know. And he popped out of it. And Dan kept on drinking, but then he did get sober, which was very cool. So Mill Valley was good fun back then. And what happened to me was I got brought into a bar. I saw the woman I thought I had waited for after this bad breakup from some years before, and she was not interested in me. But I got involved with a woman they called Tammy Why Not. And she taught me how to drink and use like a man and all that stuff, you know. And that brought me into the world of cocaine, which was a big mistake. That was about 12 years of not good, you know. But I've been clean since 1989, since November 1989. Took some doing, and took Betty Ford and all that other stuff. But a lot of meetings and a lot of helping other people to get this sobriety and to maintain it. So that's it in a sketch. I hope I've said something of interest to someone.
That's great, Bruce.
Thank you, Paul.
I have a couple other questions.
Sure.
So you talked about the music scene in the 60s in San Francisco. Was there one concert that stood out for you that just really knocked your socks off?
Well, Bill Graham had moved down to the Carousel, down to the Fillmore West, and the Flamin' Groovies took over the old Fillmore. They were a Berkeley band. They were sort of a punk band. And it was the Groovies, it was Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks, it was Commander Cody, and Hot Tuna, first time they played in public. And Joey Covington was the drummer, and Papa John Creech played, and Yarma and Jack played, and Marty sang too. And it was one of those nights. The Fillmore used to have a very low stage, and the Hot Tuna guys were playing Rock Me Baby, and they were going on, and some guy walked up on stage and sang with them for probably 10 minutes, and nobody even looked up, or, you know, and he just walked back down into the audience, you know, while the guys in the band were passing around a bottle of not Early Times, but some Wild Turkey. I remember that. That was a pretty interesting concert. So the next week was Alice Cooper, Iggy and the Stooges, Purple Earthquake, and the Groovies. And I thought Alice Cooper was Alice Stewart, this hippie chick guitar player from West Marin, right? So we went, and it wasn't that at all. It was like unisexual night out, man. It was quite a spectacle. I mean, it was a real spectacle. And the Cockettes were there, And they had the boy from Satyricon with him. Satyricon, the Fellini movie had just come out, and it was about leading this guy around homosexual Rome. And the Coquettes, who were a drag theater group, they had the boy with them, and they were throwing glitter on it. It was quite. So there's like, those concerts sort of ran into each other. And
was this before Alice would
yeah,
have the snake around his neck?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, there were no
That
snakes.
came later.
Yeah, I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
But I know that it was before that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, switching gears a little bit. Eventually, you became a taxi cab driver in the city.
Yeah.
So just tell me a short, funny, or any kind of story about being a taxi cab driver in San Francisco.
So Lee moved down to L.A. and the scene at Prune dissolved, and I needed to find a job. So I was used to staying up all night, so I figured I'll go drive cab. A friend of mine was driving cab, and he was an interesting cat because his mother was a scion of the society scene in the city, this guy John Rosecrans. And I mean, she was a big time, they were big time society people. They were Spreckles people. And John turned me onto the cab. John was driving cab for some reason. And so I got the job in March of 89, and I did it to March of 79, and I did it to June of 89. And we went through the AIDS thing, when the guys showed up with the shankers, on their face. And a lot of the drivers wouldn't take them, but I did because they needed to be transported, But anyway, my most memorable, I had switched companies, and I went over to DeSoto, and I was driving a day shift, and they didn't know me from anybody. And so I took a ride down to the airport, took a fare down to the airport, and I was coming back, and they called the Ocean View, which is out where I grew up, kind of, I mean, not many cabs come out of the Ocean View. And so they were lucky they got somebody that knew that area. So anyway, I picked up the call, and this woman comes out, and she sits in the back, and I start the meter, and she said, hang on, my daughter's coming out. And her daughter comes out, and she's way pregnant. And she gets in the cab, and she goes, oh, mama. And mom says to the Kaiser emergency room, stat. She was going to deliver, man. I'm like, holy shit. So anyway, I looked to the right of me, and I always kept Windex with me because I was always cleaning the cab. People appreciate clean cabs. And, it's just something I did because I was a nervous sort of guy. And I thought, well, I can sterilize my hands, like that.
Oh, boy.
But I called over. I said, look, you guys, this is a medical emergency. I said, you should have told me that. Because, as I said, they didn't know me from anybody. So anyway, I got him down there. I said, you better have a nurse and a gurney there, man, stat, because we're coming. So anyway, I did the blue blur all the way across town on the freeway, man, and I got her there, And I want to say that during the mid '80s, it got pretty bad, with the AIDS and all that stuff. When I came over from Marin, I knew that something had to give because it was too loose over there. And so I decided what I'd do is I'd learn to work in the ER as a volunteer, which I did. I didn't like that, but what I liked doing was calling the cabs from the main. So I pushed the book cart through the AIDS ward and did a lot of service at SF General. I have a long history with SF General. Anyway.
Okay, Bruce, we'll do one more. What was it like for you moving from San Francisco to Marin? That must have been kind of an eye-opener.
It was shocking.
What was that like?
Well, my opinion of Marin County, having grown up in the city, was it was hicks and ticks. And the kids were real pretty over here, but they were stupid and arrogant, And so when I got over here, and my parents gave me a lot of leeway, because don't forget I had a close call with the zebra killers. So they were being real kind. And I fell in with the guys in the Sons of Champlain. There were two sections of the factions in the band. There was the Terry Haggerty faction and the Champlain. And I was close with Terry and Preston and Jeffrey Palmer, And that was entree, man, hanging out with those guys. It was such great fun. And they were Marin County kids. Palmer wasn't, but the rest of them were Marin County kids. And I had a great time running around with those guys, And I really dug Marin, man. I still do, actually. The city's kind of a no-no at this point. They let it go downhill, and it's a little bit dangerous over there. But anyway, I love Marin County. But again, I thought it was Hicks and Ticks in the beginning.
Never heard that one before. All right, well, Mr. Spiegelman, thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Paul, and you're a good man.
Thank you very much.
You're
All right,
welcome.
take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.